Hi there guys, it's Rick here and welcome to Rick's Guitar Lesson. Today we're going to be taking a look at improvisation and in particular shape playing versus interval bass playing. Firstly though, what I want to do is just give you a gentle nudge in the direction of my website www.rick-graham.co.uk. If you subscribe to my website, I'm going to make a lot of material available to you, PDFs, videos and backing tracks, which won't be available anywhere else, so I urge you to get over there and subscribe. Okay, let's take a look at today's subject, shape bass playing versus interval bass playing. In my experience as a guitar player, the majority of players that I've come across are either shape bass players or interval bass players. The majority of them actually are shape bass players. I know I certainly am. But what I'm going to do is talk to you about my specific approach to it and how I try and combine the two techniques, the two approaches. And as I said before, the majority of players are shape bass players. Even interval bass players still play shapes, whether they're thinking about shapes or not, they still do it. But the perspective here is really, really important. Okay, let me just talk a little bit further about that. Shape-based players generally play scales, shapes and arpeggios really without thinking that much about what the interval is against any given chord. So when you get into guitar technique, specifically rock guitar technique, and you learn this kind of thing, which is our 3-note per string scale, major scale, based on G. I know back when I first learned it, I didn't really think that much about what the intervals were. I just took the shape, and whenever I had a backing track to play over or it was in a band scenario, then I just blast through the notes, hoping that the phrases that I played make any sense. Generally it failed miserably, and the main reason for that is that whenever you improvise, it's really, really important that you know what the intervals you're playing are against any given chord. So what I'm trying to say is shape bass playing is, or can be, very, very, very useful, but it's extremely important to use it in conjunction with knowledge of intervals. Let me just talk a little bit about interval bass playing. That is generally when you try and forget about shapes and just play either around a chord or just by playing based on your knowledge of intervals. So if I had a G major 7 chord, I could play any interval. There I wasn't thinking about shapes at all. I was just thinking about the interval that I was on and moving around each interval to create lines. That wasn't anything special by any means, but you get the idea. There are downsides to both. Let me just talk about the first one. I've already touched on what I used to do, and a lot of players, when they improvise, they tend to struggle to create good phrases. And I get this question asked to me a lot, you know, how do you make a phrase make sense? And that to me has a lot to do with your knowledge and understanding of intervals. And this is where shape bass playing sort of comes to a halt if you don't know your intervals. So what I tend to do is combine them both. So whenever I play a scale, I'm constantly thinking about the intervals against any given chord. So for instance, say we have a G major 7 chord. If I'm playing this scale, even if it's 3 notes per string, I'm always going to be thinking of the whichever note that I'm playing. For instance, major 7th, 5th, 5th, 9th, major 7th, 5th, 9th, 4th, whatever it is. You've got to be aware of it at any given time. And what I've generally done over the years is I've started to realize that these two approaches can work really, really well. Most guitar players need shapes in order to play. It's as simple as that. What it boils down to me is I generally use shape-based playing when I'm playing something that's fast, because I just do not have the time to be thinking of what the intervals are when I'm playing, you know, something, you know, a fast arpeggio or, you know, whatever. I don't have time to do it. But what I do is when I reach the end of that line, say it's something along those lines. Here, let's say it's in A, for instance, I'll know straight away that I've landed on a 4th degree. And I know how that interval will sound against the chord that I'm playing, say for instance A minor 7. Let's get that fast line going. So the way that I tend to do it is I use shape-based playing for when I'm playing faster kind of lines, and then intervallic-based playing generally when I'm playing slower vocal-like phrases. So that's generally how I tend to use it. When I'm playing a fast line with shapes, what I'll do is I'll still be aware of the intervals that I've got if I know what that shape, where that shape comes from, if I'm thinking about it. Let's say if I'm taking that G major 7 arpeggio we discussed. Now you can't fail there because every single note is a chord tone, and that's why players who don't even think about the intervals themselves, it tends to work because every single note is a chord tone, so each one that you're going to land on is going to sound somewhat decent, some better than others, but it's going to work. When you start using that with 7-note scales, the chances become even less that you're going to land on a good note. So the key is to know exactly what the intervals are against any given chord when you're playing. And like I said before, I use them both. I use both techniques. So when I'm playing fast, I will use a lot more shape-based ideas. And then when I slow the phrase down or come to the end of that fast line, then I go back into interval mode. So one thing I really suggest that you do is you try and internalize these intervals. So you can just start with a basic major scale and have a chord going in the background and just play the notes of the scale, but really listen to the note that you're playing, the interval, how it sounds against the chord. And you've got to spend quite a long time doing this. And you can test yourself wherever you are on the fretboard just by playing random notes and seeing whether you can actually identify what that interval is against the chord that's happening in the background. So whenever I improvise, that is my approach to it. So hopefully that has helped you regarding this particular subject. I'm going to be doing a lot more lessons, so make sure you tune in to the next one, and I look forward to catching up with you guys then. All right, take it easy.